Were quite nearly euthanized.
Really?
There's a guy who was working at JFK, and he told me this morning that they tried to contact Fish and Wildlife, and they weren't picking up.
Really?
And then people at the airport knew that he was a big animal person. He had 5 dogs and cats and bearded dragons and stuff like that. And so he contacted Karen at Turtle Rescue of the Hamptons, and she was able to connect us with these guys. They're not doing well. So like here's our male. He, by the way, is a little nippy, sort of like Otis.
Okay.
He is the most interested in fingers of any box turtle I've seen.
Beautiful.
And he's got this awesome green kind of coming in. He's very strong. He
does look good.
He does like fingers.
So let me get this straight. So this is a guy that works at the airport?
Just works at the airport.
And he just happened to see these come through.
And yeah, they contacted, his colleagues contacted him, said, we tried to contact whatever the right authority is, and they're not picking up. What the next step for these maybe is they're to be put down.
I wonder if they didn't, being it was New York, I wonder if they didn't go after this because they're not the Eastern, you know what I mean?
I really don't know, and I'd love to find out more about it, because obviously, I don't think JFK was their first stop. I think they probably got caught. They were on their way out of the country.
Okay, that's where I was going to go with this. I was going to ask if that's where they were headed.
They were
so
headed out of the country. So these were definitely trafficked. They were probably headed to overseas buyer.
Wow. There's no legal foreign trade in any of the terrapine species or subspecies, which are the American box turtles, without serious heavy paperwork that pretty much nobody can get. I'd say they were wild at one point.
I think that they were. He has some ridges, but the others are smoother, you'll find.
Okay.
This is the smallest one. Okay. She's got her eye closed right now. Actually, she has both eyes closed right now. I gave her reptile drops earlier, and she had the right eye was closed up. And then she's got them both closed.
Oh, she's so tiny.
She is.
There she is. There yeah. Cute little turtle.
She is cute, yeah.
Beautiful on the bottom. So,
okay.
Pretty friendly. At first I thought they were pets because they were all so easily handled. Yeah, this is the biggest one. And
she's a big girl.
Yeah, she has a very unique pupils or something with her eyes. They're a little interesting. And she also has some injuries.
Okay.
She has a bit of a rash here.
Yeah.
And I think this is from they were in socks.
So
like you've seen on the internet. They were in socks, then wrapped in duct tape.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So it's one of those cases.
This is wow. And look how smooth.
Yeah, she's an older girl.
So
lady.
And what was she's only 360 grams.
Okay.
For being so smooth,
right.
Definitely I think wild caught all of these.
Yeah, I think you're right. Definitely, I mean, they may have been wild caught a while ago because they're so outgoing, but definitely not captive bred, I would say. I think you're right.
And I actually didn't notice the rash on the right side until now. It's like
at least it's not too raw.
No, it's not too bad. And then I've got 2 more females in here. And actually both of these were very, very calm. But then I was able to get them to bite down on a stick, and both of them have sort of gray tongue or gums.
Okay.
And so I think that they might be a little iller than the others.
All right.
But one of them I marked, this one I think is female question mark.
I think that's a young male.
Might be a young male. Yeah. And then this is the other one I marked as female.
Yeah, definitely. This
is the yellower one. He's the oranger one.
Okay.
Yeah. So
well, definitely not too bad.
Yeah.
That's good.
I'm glad that they're not headed to overseas pet trade or worse. And I'd love to try to find out more about what can be done to intercept them and that sort of thing. I'm going to tell the gentleman who got them to me to make sure more people at JFK got our information.
Yeah, that's really good that you guys were able to answer the call. When others weren't.
I'm sure they're probably not the only ones that go through there.
It makes you wonder how many don't get snagged. It really does.
A little something here. I think it's just
species
maybe.
Or it could be like a bite from a male or something.
Could be. Most of them had shells without any bites. One of them had small bites on there.
Is it the bigger one, I think?
Yeah, it was the bigger one.
Yeah, this one's a young male. See his head starting to turn green?
Yeah. Now that it's bright enough.
Yeah, it's...
They came this morning. It wasn't quite so bright out,
Right.
but it's showing the same green that the other one does.
He's getting those red eyes too.
Yeah.
So was somebody at the airport?
Yeah, so it was the guy works at the airport. He didn't mention what his role was, whether it was baggage or customs or something like that. But once the agents had located these turtles, and I didn't get that backstory, whether it was TSA or something like that, they tried to contact the appropriate authorities. We weren't getting an answer necessarily on that, and then they said, well, can anybody take these turtles, or else we have to dispatch of them somehow.
Right.
And so, yeah, fortunately, there was a turtle lover there, and he contacted the right people, and then we were able to get them to you today.
That's cool. That's a happy ending.
It really
It's
is.
really cool. And you know, like, they definitely need a little bit of treatment, like you were saying. But you know, you guys know
They're
how
overall
sometimes you
pretty
get them
okay.
sometimes you get them and it's like, oh man, they're in such bad shape. You know. So this is cool. This is kind of a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. All right.
What could you do with your box of turtles at a restaurant?
Hi.
Boxes of box turtles.
Just you know, family dinner, turtles. All right, never a dull moment here trying to enjoy a family dinner, but somehow turtles make their way into it, and that's okay, that's what we do. So we're back home. I separated the ornate box turtles into these two boxes, and I put them on some hay for now. They're obviously gonna have to go through quarantine. These are, unfortunately, wild collected animals that were destined for the illegal pet trade overseas. Really unfortunate. So they cannot go back to the wild for various reasons. One being you will never be able to find out exactly where these animals come from. Even if they catch the person that did it, anything they say is hearsay. So they could say, oh yeah, I got them from here, but how do you know that's actually true? And there's a lot of things that go into the compatibility of animals from different areas as far as genetics go, and of course, pathogens. We do not know what these animals carry. So it is just as dangerous for them to come into contact with an animal here at Garden State Tortoise as it is for them to come into contact with an animal in nature. Because if they are compromised in any way and they carry something, that can be easily spread to a wild population and wipe it out, if not do some serious damage to it. So these animals, unfortunately, taken out of the wild, now have to live a life under captive management, but they are at least in a good spot here. And box turtles just happen to be a major part of what Casey and I do here. We're very familiar with them all. We know just how to take care of them. And I'm pretty confident that these guys and girls are gonna have an awesome life here and live a long, healthy life. So let's take a close look at Terrapene ornata, the ornate box turtle. And we're also gonna go over the health of these guys and girls a little bit, because it's possible that they are sick, but overall, they actually don't look bad to me, you know, but things are going to come to fruition over the next few weeks as to how healthy they actually are or are not. So, the ornate box turtle. Right off the bat, you might notice something about it, that it bears a striking resemblance to the Florida box turtle, which also has this black carapace with yellow lines and also a dorsal stripe. What's really cool about that is the ornate box turtle comes from the western portions of the United States, and the Florida box turtle only comes from the southeastern portion of the United States, primarily Florida, and they come from two totally different habitats, yet they have evolved to have the same look on the carapace, but only on the carapace. Because when it comes to the head and the legs and even the design of the plastron, the Florida box turtle differs greatly. More on that in a little bit. So you'll see this ornate box turtle is in fact a male, and the reason you could tell that is because he does have those classic red eyes that the males get, and he also has a greenish blue head. Adult males will develop that, and in some cases it'll be a really beautiful lime green or actually kind of an intense blue. On the plastron here, it has a beautiful design that almost completely mimics that of the carapace, which is unique to this species. The ornate box turtle is built a little bit more like a tortoise. It has a really rugged appearance, a very bulbous head, really thick, powerful, but stout limbs. And it also, with the males, it doesn't get a very concave plastron like you see in Gulf Coast or Eastern box or even the, of course, Florida box that we just brought up. So let's pull out here a female so we can look at the differences just a little bit. There's that big, beautiful girl. Look at her, isn't she awesome? You'll see she doesn't have that blue or greenish head. She has more of a brown head with mottling or speckling. She has brown yellow eyes. She's a little bit bigger than the male and rounder. And the male's also getting those beautifully colored front limb scales, whereas the female tends to have more white or yellow. The male here is developing some orange. Some of them have some pretty intense red. It's pretty awesome. They're looking great. I really am not seeing too many issues, if any, with them. But again, we're gonna have to judge these over time. Now, what I do wanna do is compare these to the turtle that you guys probably just saw in last week's video, who is Ducky, the desert box turtle, who we had to trim the beak and nails of. And here he is, Ducky, the desert box turtle, who's doing great now since we trimmed both his nails and his beak. And this is a great time to go over again the differences between your two Western box turtles found in the United States of America. Here's your true ornate, Terrapene ornata, and this is the desert box turtle, Terrapene ornata luteola, or what was once called Terrapene ornata luteola. I won't go nuts with taxonomy for you guys. I believe these are different animals. Most box turtle fans do also agree. And if you ask me, yeah, there's some pretty vast differences here between them. You get that redder or sand-colored shell, more frayed lines, sometimes thinner lines. But with the ornate, you get that deep, dark, black carapace with those bold lines, the dorsal pattern. And then there are some similarities and also differences to the skin colors. Both males of these species or subspecies will get those green, blue, or yellow heads. Sometimes with the deserts, it's insanely conspicuous. Unfortunately for Ducky, like we showed you guys, his color's been pretty washed out from living a life indoors under artificial lighting his whole life, so he's lost a lot of his color. But when you look at these guys, especially in the wild, there's some pretty vibrant coloration to the head of the males. Both of these animals come from similar environments. They require more scrubland, grassy areas, well-drained soils. They can be found in prairies and also desert or arid type habitats, and they spend a lot of their time underground, especially the desert box turtle. And something that's really interesting about them, especially the females, the way they nest is really awesome. They don't just simply turn around and dig a shallow flask-shaped nest with the back legs when it's time to lay their eggs. The females actually completely bury themselves underground, and you'll see the ground moving as they construct the nest before they finally come up out of it, but they might still be halfway into it. They deposit the eggs, cover it up, and leave. Really, really cool. The first time you see it, you don't even understand what's really happening. Another really cool fact about ornate box turtles and desert box turtles, let me put these guys down, is, and I noticed this female doing it. Now, these turtles are box turtles, meaning they have that hinge on the plastron which allows them to completely seal up to avoid predation. But something that the ornate and the deserts will do is they will not always use the hinge to try to scare something off. They will actually extend their legs, push the back legs out, and put the head and neck all the way out to try to look bigger. Really, really cool stuff. You don't see a lot of turtles doing that. The only thing that I could think of off the top of my head is when an alligator snapper gapes the mouth of their giant head to try to scare something away, as if to say, hey, you get any closer, I'm gonna bite you. Well, the desert and the ornate box turtle, even though they look really, really cute, they are capable of making themselves look bigger to a potential predator. But I think right now she's not really scared. She's more comfortable with me than anything else. Either that or she wants to make a meal out of my hand. But classic example of one of several American box turtle species, and the ornate box turtle just happens to look a lot like the Florida box turtle, and you can see right off the bat just how similar his carapace color and markings are to the ornate box turtle. But as I said before, these animals come from totally different portions of our country and completely different habitats. While the ornate is found in drier areas, this animal comes from subtropical to tropical forests like palmetto forests in, of course, Florida. Both animals do appreciate humidity. There's no box turtle on Earth that doesn't like it, but the Florida box turtle is really adapted to that Florida kind of life, and that's also why they do so well here in New Jersey with our subtropical summers. Look at that, bigger animal, and you can also notice that it pretty much is only two colors, black and yellow. There's very little variation with the Florida box turtle, but you do sometimes come across animals like this where they have almost a light brown, chocolate brown, or even caramel colored shell with, of course, those quintessential or distinct yellow lines, markings, and dorsal stripe down the back. You might also notice with this male that he's got white mandibles. That's another thing that you might notice in extreme age, and this happens to be a very old male Florida box turtle. But you can tell that they definitely are Floridas, 100% through and through. And when you look at the plastron does not mimic the carapace pattern like what you see in the ornate box turtle. You may also notice that these animals are a little bit more oval shaped, and they're also considerably larger. There are, of course, very small versions of Floridas throughout Florida, but for the most part, you're looking at a pretty big animal. And whereas with the ornate box turtle, the males are smaller, with the Florida box turtle, the males are larger. And you're gonna notice the pattern of the males being the larger of the sexes continue through the rest of the United States of America's box turtles. One other thing to point out about the Florida box turtle is that it typically has only 3 toes on the hind feet. There are some that have 4, or there are some that have 3 and 4, but the vast majority of them only have 3 toes on the hind feet, not unlike the 3-toed box turtle, which gets its name from having 3 toes or claws on the hind feet. This is also typically the most uniform colored of the box turtles, where they have that tan or brown unmarked shell, and when it comes to females, well, pretty much the skin, head, and everything else matches the carapace. But you do get some color with some females, and of course with males, as is the case with pretty much all box turtles, you're gonna get some really colorful heads and of course front scales on those males. But a lot of 3-toed box turtles start off like this, where they actually do have some significant pattern to the shell. Some of them retain it, or at least some of it, while others turn a beautiful, almost chocolate color like this adult female in my hand right here. 3-toed box turtles are one of the 2 most popular of the American box turtles in the pet trade across the world today, and many of them, when captive bred, actually make fantastic pets. But another trending situation that's going on with all the box turtles I'm showing you in this video is that many of them are still poached illegally for illegal parts of the pet trade across the world, and that's just how we got those ornates that we showed you earlier in this video. All of the American box turtles are extremely unique in their own right, even though they all kind of correspond with the same type standard. They all have that domed shell, the ornate a little bit flatter, and of course so is the desert. They have that powerful hinge on the plastron that enables them to close up, and males are typically more colorful than the females. However, when it comes to the eastern box turtle, which is by far the world's most familiar and popular of the American box turtles, sometimes the females are just as nice, if not more colorful, than the males. Now this guy right here on the plank is being shy right now, but what's interesting is he is showing us how box turtles got their name, and that's because they use that plastral hinge as a drawbridge to evade predation, and they completely seal themselves shut. Usually, females are very classically colored, like this beautiful lady right here. She has really deep, dark chocolate, almost reddish eyes, which will contrast the beautiful, bright red, fiery eyes of the male. Or they can have eyes like this girl right here, where she's got a little bit more orange and yellow in there. But look at how colorful this one is. She's got a lot of heavy yellow blotching, and the male here has a lot of heavy orange blotching. And when you look at his head, it's absolutely outstanding, and so are his front limbs. But what might seem so vibrant and conspicuous to us is their way of blending in, because these animals don't come from Florida or western portions of the United States. They come from areas of the mid-Atlantic and northeastern region, like right here in New Jersey. And these animals use what we see as a vibrant coloration to blend in effortlessly with the forest floor. They come from pine forests and deciduous woodlands, where they use the color to blend in with fallen leaves and other vegetation, as well as fallen debris that's all over the forest floor. So especially when they're dry like this and not wringing wet, you almost don't notice them because they blend in with all those wonderful colors of the forest floor. When they're wetted down, they're a lot more easy to see, because let's face it, any turtle and tortoise that's been saturated with water really shows some pretty incredible color. But the eastern box turtle is unique in that it uses this vibrant coloration to stay comfortable and find refuge in the forest floor. They also venture into fields and the margins of woodlands, and they are fans of water, as are all box turtles. Because remember, box turtles are a member of the Emydid family, which means they are a member of the pond turtles, putting them more closely related to species like red-eared sliders than any tortoise out there. These animals use slightly webbed feet to not only launch themselves into the water, but actually swim and even submerge for prolonged periods. And in fact, one other American box turtle species utilizes water very heavily. The Gulf Coast box turtle is not only the largest of the American box turtle species and subspecies, but it is also the most aquatic. And when you look at Big Blue here, this giant male in my hands, he's covered in duckweed and pondweed. Why? Because he spends a lot of his time hanging out in that 4.5 foot deep pond. That's right, folks, don't be fooled by these turtles, because even though they have a mostly terrestrial appearance, they are very well equipped to handle aquatic environments. And I've seen Gulf Coast box turtles in the wild where they will run from you, throw themselves into the water in vernal pools that are pretty deep, and swim out to the middle, not unlike a painted turtle would, and then submerge. They're also capable of actually hibernating or brumating underwater for up to 5 months. It's pretty incredible what these animals are capable of. And one thing you'll notice with Gulf Coast box turtles is there's a lot of variation. You get those that are jet black with no markings at all on them, with chocolate brown eyes, and then you get these males with beautiful blue and or white heads. Some have almost no pattern to the carapace like Big Blue here, but then when you look at males like the Punisher right here, he's got a lot of what you might call Eastern influence to them. There's a big misunderstanding right now, and further research needs to happen with the impressive Gulf Coast box turtle, because it's unsure exactly what's going on with their genetic makeup. Right now they are considered an actual valid subspecies of the Eastern box turtle, the Eastern being Terrapene carolina, and the Gulf Coast being Terrapene carolina major. But you can tell that when they come from different areas, they definitely have influence from other box turtles that may be in the vicinity. And it is believed that some of these Gulf Coast box turtles share the blood of the extinct giant box turtle, or Putnam's box turtle. We often refer to that turtle as the Putnami box turtle. Absolutely huge animal that once walked North America, and now what's left of them is believed to be in these amazing Gulf Coast box turtles. There's not too many similarities with some of the other box turtles. These guys and girls really are different. You can see they have a flatter shell. They're very streamlined, which enables them to utilize those aquatic environments and move pretty quickly through them. They have huge heads with powerful large mandibles and a bicuspid upper beak. Pretty cool. They do have 4 toes on the hind feet typically, much like the Eastern does, but like I said, you do get influence from other box turtles depending on where in the range you come across these animals. These are believed to be the giants, the true giants, and what is left of the Putnam's box turtle within the blood of the Gulf Coast. Really unique, really amazing animals, and yet another fantastic example of the United States of America's box turtles. Box turtles are incredible animals, very familiar turtles across the world. People love them, and many of us got our start with them. That's how I got started, actually. I was only 5 when I found, or my father actually found, our first box turtle. But it's important to know, guys, that box turtles don't typically act like Otis, the Eastern box turtle right here. This animal is one of a kind, and we still to this day don't really know why he acts the way he does. The reason I want to bring that up is because a lot of people see videos of him and they think, oh my gosh, I have to have that animal, or I have to have an animal just like him. And they might go out and they might take a box turtle out of the wild thinking it's going to end up that way, or they may, rightfully so, purchase a captive bred animal, a legal animal, and also think it's going to turn out the way Otis did and then be disappointed, and then maybe that animal ends up needing a home. So keep that in mind. This is not normal. The way you saw the other box turtles behaving, that's how a box turtle typically behaves. That doesn't mean that they're not going to come out of their shell and start associating you as their food source, which means they'll be excited to see you. But as far as this kind of bizarre interaction and charisma that comes from Otis, the Eastern box turtle, this is a true rarity. And I just want to make sure people understand that, because box turtles are in serious decline throughout their range. All of the subspecies I just introduced to you guys are in decline, and that's important to understand. We began this video showing you those unfortunate ornate box turtles that were plucked from the wild, confiscated at the airport, and now are going to live here. And yeah, they're going to live a good life here, but they should have been left alone where they were. Keep wild turtles wild, and of course there are plenty of legal captive bred animals out there. You do have to know your state laws, because even when it comes to captive bred, certain states have laws that prohibit you from legally obtaining or possessing these for any reason at all. So make sure you do your research. Always only get your hands on captive bred. Enjoy the wild ones from a distance, and always remember that chances are a turtle's not going to act like this crazy little dude right here.